All right, welcome everybody to our latest meeting of the Wisconsin Climate Action Team. We have another packed agenda, but first just wanted to say thank you all again for coming out to our public meeting last Wednesday. Was really thrilled to see such a great turnout. I think it was really interesting to hear all the concerns from all the folks who came, and I think that was a great start to our public input process, and that we're continuing this Saturday with our next workshop. So roughly our agenda today, we're going to spend a little bit of time approving our past meeting minutes to begin with, and we're going to do some work on our November 4th workshop because that is coming right up. We have some various action items that we want to try to assign to different WCAT members and go over the agenda and get your input on how you felt how the first workshop went. And then we have a presentation from Peter Arnold of our Free Power Wisconsin working group. And so he has a presentation that will pull up and I'll let him talk through that. We will hear a quick update on the Pleasant Street extension walkthrough that happened last week, take any public comment on agenda items, and then go over items for our next meeting. Okay, so we have several past meeting minutes to approve because we had some technical difficulties. But does anybody have updates to the minutes from September or earlier in October that they'd like to submit? No? Okay, can I get a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Seconded. Okay, all in favor of approving our minutes? Okay, aye. It's unanimous for everybody who's here, and so they are approved. So those will be submitted by, I'll work with Jan on submitting those to the town website so we can update our webpage. Next on the agenda is really going over our public climate workshops. So I wanted to take maybe 5 quick minutes to hear your reflections on how you felt the first meeting went. I would say if you could share one thing you liked and one thing you think could be improved, that would be great. And then we'll discuss our draft workshop agenda for Saturday, which Lisa and I pulled together a rough draft for you all to look at, and we will go over and try to refine that. And then we'll go over our action item list to prepare for the second meeting, which will take all of us pitching in. I also want to acknowledge that we are joined online by Shree Verrill, our service provider, who is on her way here in person. She will join us very soon. And Jessica Bernicini from Maine Sea Grant, who also was a facilitator at our meeting last week and has joined us as an expert in process. She's really been to help us think through how we're structuring the next meeting, the next workshop, and she's actually going to be joining us for that workshop as well. So we have the whole team on hand. Okay, so reflections. I love to go around, and Colleen, do you want to start us off?
One thing that popped into my mind, well, I think it went well overall, facilitation wise. I think there was a good amount of information, science, climate wise, at a broad base that I think was presented really well. One thing I think that could be improved is maybe if we had 2 microphones, or if there was just kind of smoother transition for public comment. I think kind of seemed like, in my opinion, folks who were there who want to speak, they would start to speak first before Cassie could run over. So that might be something to maybe reinforce, or if we have facilitators up front, and then we have one of us have the microphone and be like do this talk show those things, and they have someone who an assistant, and they run over. I think that might make a possible smooth transition for public comment, but I think it was really well done overall with the resources and stuff that were provided, so.
Great. So maybe one thing we could do is to find out how this microphone system works in here, because we are gonna be in this room on Saturday.
That's true.
And Shri, am I correct in thinking you'll be able to bring another microphone on Saturday? I know you did have one that we ended up not using last week.
Yes. Is there a microphone set up in the room where you're at now?
There is a connected microphone system that I believe, does this select?
There's a lavalier somewhere that could be used, which, you can mess around, but it seems to me like there is a second microphone.
I'm having a real hard time hearing the different microphones that are set up right now, but in general, I think 2 microphones make sense, especially because I realize you're actually speaking into a microphone, Terry, so yes.
People could come up to the desk. I think this one can make it over to the desk. We can speak into this one.
And there's,
There's one other.
Yeah, it doesn't work all that well.
okay, so an action item is to find out how the microphone system works in here. Would anybody be able to volunteer to reach out to the town to do that?
I'll do that. Great, Dennis. That's the second thing I need to do.
Okay,
I'd like to request that person coordinate with me so we can coordinate the text.
okay, and to coordinate with Shri on the test. Okay, great, and I'll send a follow-up, either this evening or tomorrow morning with all of our action items and assignments, so you all have that ready to go. Okay, fantastic. Lisa.
I had the benefit of talking about this with Cassie, and Shri post the last workshop. And my concerns were that while I think there was good information, I did not think that it had been organized in a clear, concise way. And in my opinion, I found it very confusing to figure out what exactly we were trying to achieve with that workshop. And my sense from the audience was that they seemed to be confused as to what it is they were supposed to be doing and what they were supposed to be coming away with. So it seemed to me that we needed to be much clearer in the process that we were proposing, and also what and how we would come to that with the group that was there. And so I think Cassie and I sort of pitched a couple ideas, which hopefully will be apparent in the draft agenda for the 4th, which I think we both felt good about. But I think the workshops are good. I just think that we need to be very clear about what the expectation is and what the people that come should be walking away with. And I did not feel that happened well in the last one.
Jan?
A real positive, you did a fabulous job. I mean, truly, Cassie, I couldn't have done it. And I know it wasn't a lot of time, et cetera, so thank you for doing it. I too feel that, that it was not in an order, which I could understand. People did leave confused. And the other thing I think is really interesting, I don't know what our slides look like, I look forward to it. They were very, very busy. And people of an age have a difficult time with that.
Yes, we did. Hearing aids notwithstanding.
Again, I echo Jan's sentiment. You did an amazing job. You and Shri and Jessica, dynamite. I mean, you guys really did a good job. we didn't really have any run through, so, you know, shame on us maybe, because it would have maybe been a little bit smoother if we had done a run through. But I think you guys did a really good job. I was really happy with the turnout. I wasn't expecting a lot, so I was very pleasantly surprised. And the people that did show up weren't too cranky, and they participated and they had good feedback, so that was good, I thought. What we could do better, I mean, I think that we're going to get better as time goes on. We're just new at everything, and so we're perpetually confused about most stuff. So I think this next meeting, hopefully we'll be a little bit more confident and understand what our objective is. It's my 2 cents.
Thanks, right.
My turn. I was impressed with all the questions that people asked. But that was very positive. They were involved in what was being said. And they had some ideas. Yeah. Negative would be what other people want to say, so that's not true.
Then we don't know about the airport one. The presentation was. And I came away thinking, wow, really knows her stuff. And of course, Sri does too, but that was, it was a good feeling. But you had it down.
I'm glad.
I felt like we could ask any question and you would have the answer. So.
Well, thank you. And I'll share, I really appreciated all the support. We all came together. I was really happy with the turnout. Shri and Jessica, you both were really supportive of us in sort of a last minute scramble to try to pull all the final materials together. Like you, I felt like we really would have benefited from a walkthrough, and I think getting your eyes on the material first would have helped us identify those areas where things were a little confusing and could have been clarified. So that's really great feedback to take into the second workshop. So yeah, I'm feeling very positive. It was a good learning experience for me. And I'm really, like I said, looking forward to Saturday.
I have just another thought, Kathy. Yeah. Of course, we're going to be in this room next time, so it'll be a little different. I wish we had had an easel and an arrow and signs pointing to the room that we were in, and maybe more materials, like better sign-up materials. You know, you gotta have to make sure all the name tags, the sign-up sheets, make sure that we're really well organized according to get everybody's name and email address and stuff, because that's solid gold. So
yeah,
absolutely better at that.
Yeah. Actually, that's one thing we want to make sure for Saturday is that when we have people coming in, we really ask them, like, please give us your contact information, whether that's an email address or a phone number or whatever works for them, or just to hear from them, you know, if they come to the town office, please put materials here. Like you said, we're building our list of contacts through time, so this is a group that we really want to keep talking to. And the emails that we have, which are in the backpack, we'll be reaching out to them with notes and employees. Okay, thank you. That's really helpful to have all your reflections. Shri and Jessica, would you like to share a couple of reflections as well?
I'll hop in, and I feel like Shri's gonna make an entrance into the room and be able to share her thoughts. So the most important thing for me was the conversation that we had, where everybody, you know, shared what their concerns were and what their experiences were. I think the level of engagement and openness from the people who participated, and like also the number of people who participated, was wonderful. I think you all should be proud that, you know, that many people showed up and were willing to share what they were thinking. So that was a big takeaway for me. I think that I would agree that there definitely needs to be a more kind of clear and concise communication of the whole process, including like what the community resilience partnership enrollment process is, how these different kind of community engagement pieces fit into that process, how the things that people are sharing with us are going to be incorporated, how that will be reflected in the priorities that are chosen. Because I think just from a community engagement best practices perspective, you always want to acknowledge that you have heard people and that that the information that they share with you is going to affect the outcomes. But I thought that, I thought really honestly overall, like the amount of information that people shared was really wonderful.
We can pull a chair around so you can see.
Or we can have this one. Going to that.
Okay, these are not. So we're on that. Great.
Hi Jessica, you were right. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear anything that was being said, so. I agree with what I heard Jessica say, which is that the conversations that came up were really valuable. And it was nice to see everybody pitching in at the workshop. The pieces I did pick up on through the sound were kind of echoed what I reflected in the email, which were primarily driven from a very intense conversation with Lisa afterwards. And it looks like the agenda draft that Cassie and Lisa came up with this weekend addresses a lot of that. So I am looking forward to having the material more prepared, having more people buy in with preparing and actually knowing the overall flow. And I think that in terms of growth, this committee has done a tremendous amount of growing from the start to now. And then Saturday will get even better, and that's just the trajectory. So we would support that.
Well, with that, I think we can dive straight into the agenda for Saturday. And I will share my screen so that Jessica can see what we're looking at. Okay. Fantastic. So our first workshop was really focused on trying to hear from people what their concerns are about the impacts of climate change, what they're seeing, what they worry about, sort of as a table setting. The second workshop, we decided to go with as our group, we had discussed and decided to really focus a little bit more on climate change solutions, what people would like to do in response to their concerns. And so the overall thrust of, or the goal, I think, of this workshop that is reflected in the structure is showing people what the sort of main sources of main challenges we have are, both from climate impacts as well as greenhouse gas emissions. And then to hear from them what they want to do in response to it. So similar, or one different thing that we'll have from the workshop last week is that we intend to, after introductions, have folks break into breakout groups. smaller groups so that they can discuss, climate solutions in response to a specific question that we'll pose to them. So after we hear from them in breakout groups, we'll come back together as one large group, discuss what was talked about, what people were identifying, just get a gut check that we've been hearing them correctly, and then summarize the results of that to take forward into the prioritization of climate action for the town and our climate action strategy. So it starts off with an introduction, and I think Lisa and I talked about really getting our committee members more involved in the table setting, the introductory part of this workshop. So in the intro, we'll talk about who we are, what we're doing, and why WCAT was established and for whom, and what our mission is. We'll also talk about the timeline of action that we're on, specifically with regards to the Community Resilience Partnership. We can bring in examples of, or just mention that there are ongoing projects that we're helping advise on, but really we want to talk about the partnership and sort of a timeline of where these workshops fit into, towards working towards a grant application.
So maybe a graphic for that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think a graphic for that would be helpful. That'll be followed up by sharing the goals and outcomes of the workshop specifically. So really telling people why we are here and what we expect to get out of the workshop. We also talked about perhaps sharing youth voices. We, as a committee, had discussed before really trying to get youth from the schools to attend the meeting. And so we empowered a couple of folks, Carrie and Shree, to do some outreach. And I think we also have this week to do some outreach. But we wanted to create a little bit of space to have some youth this week. And in the event that we can't do that, we wanted to ask Colleen if you'd be willing to talk a little bit about your experience growing up in Wisconsin and how that has inspired you to want to take action on climate change, to join this group. I think we all
Choose your career.
I'm over 18, so I don't know what you consider as youth.
I think I've heard anybody under 30.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I think you still count.
Okay.
Just
to be clear, I know
But yeah, no, I think we felt that having just a reminder that we're doing this work to try to better our community for current and future generations is would be really inspirational to the discussion.
Can I just say one thing? You haven't, I don't know, I'm assuming you and Evan are the only two people in this entire room that have come and grown up in Wisconsin. In my opinion, your voice is more important than anybody else's. So to me, it makes the most sense for you to be the representative to, in my opinion, the most important constituency that we have, and that is people under 30.
Oh, thank you.
So that's kind of that's where we discussed, and your name to me all along, and like, we gotta get this on somewhere. So I hope you're willing to step up to that, but I think you're capable.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I can maybe draft some questions and maybe share with you and Shree just to make sure that we're on the same page, just so I can
Sounds great.
form that thoughts. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. Can you do that by tomorrow? Yes. Oh, yeah, I'll start writing some things there. Yeah, that's great. Continue on.
Awesome, thank you. So that'll be a pretty quick table setting, 10 minutes. Then we're gonna have a climate action introduction, and it's not gonna be as dense as last week, because I know we had a lot of sciencey slides. But we wanted to talk about what's causing climate change. So I think bringing back the slide about greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect, that really greenhouse gases are the main driver. Then we're going to talk about the sources of greenhouse gas emissions in Maine. Number one is transportation, number two is building sector, number three is energy generation. So talking about what sort of the problem sectors are. I know the exact figure I want, I can get it, so that's gonna be easy. We also want to summarize the high priority climate impacts for Wiscasset that were identified in the first climate workshop. And I'll say, and public survey. With some examples of what this looks like. This will be pretty quick. Sea level rise is an obvious one. I think we could show a map of where the water will come up in Main Street, how it might cover reds. We could show that slide of cars submerged in Hollowell that we had to skip past pretty quickly, but it's very impactful, and so on. We also want to point out that this is a unique moment for taking climate action because we can get abundant state, federal, and philanthropic funding to move forward. So we'll give a couple of examples. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, at the national level has literally billions of dollars they're giving away for clean school buses. And there are towns in Maine that have got them, so we can show pictures of that. And I think one or two other examples from around Maine of towns taking advantage of this moment to take action. Then we want to present the survey results as of November 1st this week. So we propose that perhaps Leslie, you would be willing to do that. I mean, anybody who's really jazzed about doing this would be great. We're trying to spread around the love. And also if anybody's like, I really want to talk about that, please let me know as we're going through this.
Can I just make one point? Sorry, Leslie's going to go ahead. It's, the first is Wednesday. If everybody can go back to the original 10 and hopefully pick up 5 or 10 more, there should be a real push made between now and Wednesday to just make sure that people that got the survey the first time around have filled it out, and if they have, could be pleased because Wednesday is the deadline. Because obviously the more responses we have, the better the data is going to look and feel for everybody that attends.
Yeah. And then there's the question of what the slide's gonna look like and incorporating that not at last minute. Did you guys have an estimate for this, how
Yeah.
much time that section's gonna take?
Yeah, 20 minutes. Yes. And then the last bit, we'll just talk, it'll be back to me to talk about the difference between mitigation or reducing greenhouse gas emissions versus adaptation with 1 to 2 examples of each of those. So I think really, I felt very strongly throughout this, we need to talk about both of those things in this process so that people know that there are different types of climate action that the town could be taking.
Does everybody here understand that? Mitigation versus adaptation?
That might be good to define workshop.
Okay,
I think.
I
Oh,
would even love you
100%.
to,
We will
you gave
definitely
me
define it.
that on Saturday, but I think it'd be helpful for you to define that to the group right now, because I think that's, it was interesting to hear you say what it was.
Yeah, so mitigation is any action that reduces or results in less greenhouse gases going into the atmosphere. So that could be having more electric cars on the road that don't directly burn gasoline. That could be weatherizing our town buildings so that they also don't burn as much fuel oil. That could also be planting trees. We set carbon out of the atmosphere. And then adaptation are actions that help us prepare for the our changing climate. So rising temperatures, we might prepare for that by having a cooling center in town, or more extreme weather and rainfall events. We can prepare for that by upsizing our culverts. So there are different adaptation actions. So I think I want to be super clear here that these are different types of climate solutions that go hand in hand, because mitigation is also a way of adapting to climate change. So any questions, concerns before we move to the next section?
Just the timing of the draft presentation and how each of these translate into slides. And the timing and the coordination.
I mean, it would be pretty easy to take, I can take the survey pretty easily, just pull up a pie chart, shows you the pie chart stuff. Is that all you're thinking, is just
I think so.
one?
I took the, I think it was the top 5 priorities, just because for people sitting in the back, where you show everything, it's not visible.
Right,
So making sure that there's the right size text and image to translate into the back, and that
okay,
will affect the outcome of the graph. And the slide is very hard to fit all of that on one slide. I think we had 3 for that reason.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can finish our draft slides by this Wednesday, the end of the day Wednesday. And I'm hoping, Lisa, you might help marshal the troops on getting all of our slides together.
Follow up on action items? Is that what Marshall the group means?
Yes. Yeah, and so
Great.
Lisa and I can pull together the draft slide deck. I think we can pull from the slide deck we had last week and use that in a template specifically for the survey results, just to update that pie chart and then update the table of the top 5 priorities. Make sense?
The pie chart is in Excel, but just get translated into PowerPoint. I can share both of those files to use.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So that's the introduction, our first half hour. Then we envisioned spending 45 minutes in breakout discussions. And so this is where we bring Shri and Jessica back to help lead the group through these discussions. So I'll introduce both of you, Shri and Jessica. And we envisioned that you would have a quick introduction to explain how the discussions will be structured, what questions we're asking, and how the breakouts will work. So Lisa and I felt that focusing probably on one primary question would be plenty for this group. I was able to observe the Southport workshop, which I think went pretty well for how many questions the group was asked, but there were a lot of questions asked of that group, and I saw there was a little bit of confusion there.
My breakout group, we just went to what solutions do you want to use to address the impacts and get a pretty straightforward answer. So I agree with what you're about to say.
So we could say what adaptation mitigation solutions or what climate solutions are you most interested in pursuing? Probably this is too wonky.
But the thing I've used that's been really successful is what are the impacts and what are the solutions? And so the first workshop is really looking at the impacts, and this is your opportunity to tell us what solutions you want to prioritize for that.
is that how you're breaking, like, I don't understand how you're going to create these breakout groups, how are you going to move people, like, what will each group focus on?
So that is something we should decide today. So we will have, I think, probably 2, if we have a similar turnout, we'll have 2 in-person groups. If we have anybody on Zoom, then they will have a separate breakout group that will be facilitated by Jessica. Because we're in a smaller room, I think we're gonna have to set up this room with perhaps a group over there, and we may have to set up a group over here. We have to figure out the structure of how we are setting up this room, because it's
And the mics.
small. And the microphones.
And the online will have to be in a different room.
And online will have to be in a different room. That I'll be asking the town manager.
So this is where Jessica really, her expertise really, I think, I would like to hear your input, Jessica, because you were also at the Southport breakout session, second workshop meeting. And hoping you can hear me.
I can.
What do you think?
Oh, can I say one quick thing, just to answer Leslie's question? So I think we could take two strategies. We could have two breakout groups, and they both are asked this question, and they can talk about anything they wish. Or we could ask people, would you like to talk about climate solutions that lead to lower emissions? Or would you like to talk about solutions that lead to focus on adaptation alone? My personal feeling is just break them into two groups and have them talk about whatever they wish. At Southport, it was remarkable, both groups circled around the same solutions, even though they were apart and didn't hear each other. It was amazing.
But then I don't understand why you break them up, because everybody's going to just share their own ideas for a solution.
It's really the amount of time that it takes for individuals to speak, and just kind of doubling how many people can provide input, or tripling actually.
Yeah. So Shri, to your point, thinking about, you know, how to frame these and how to facilitate them, I guess, I think to your point about, you know, what are the impacts and what are the solutions? I'm really curious what you all think the overlap is going to be between the people that showed up for the first workshop and the people that will show up for the second workshop. And one of the reasons that I ask that is because if we think that there's going to be a lot of new people there, we probably do want to give them space to share about the impacts that they are concerned about, so that they are making that linkage between impacts and solutions. If you think that it's going to be like mostly the same people, and I know it's very difficult to say, but if it's mostly going to be the same people that we maybe have already heard from, then maybe we do just jump right into solutions. But we might want to build in a little bit of time at the very beginning of the breakout groups, just to say, like, you know, we acknowledge that not everybody was able to attend the first workshop, and we want to give some space to folks to share, you know, what is the biggest concern that you have about climate impacts, and then kind of leading from there. Because if I'm recalling correctly, the questions that we asked in Southport were something about, like, what are the risks that you're concerned about? What are the kind of criteria that you want to use for decision making? And then what are the solutions that you're interested in pursuing? And that probably is, I don't think we really need to talk about the criteria as much.
No, I think we're leaving that entirely out. I
Yeah.
felt strongly about that.
And then the fourth was how does this,
it's a lot to consider in a short amount of time.
and then the fourth question was, how does this sync up with the community action list items? And that process is still ongoing. So I think less is more.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think linking with the community action list is something we assigned ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're familiar with that framework.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's really good feedback.
The only other thing that I would say just quickly is I think I agree with you, Cassie, that we should just let people break up how they want to, because I think that mitigation and adaptation are there's a lot to unpack there. And if they're really new terms to people, I think that there's going to be some people that may think like, oh, that sounds great, but they might be missing out on opportunities to talk about stuff that they didn't like necessarily think were part of either one of those kind of frameworks.
But the other thing is that we had all of us talked about trying to get more kids to the second workshop. If we're successful with that, I would like to envision that we would have a whole different dynamic in the room if we were successful with getting 230 in the second meeting. So that it wouldn't be as much of a repeat of the first one, getting people back. And I, frankly, I'm not sure we made it clear that whoever came first would in the second one anyway. Yeah, so I think that the focus should be, or at least the potential assumption should be that we're getting a majority of new people as opposed to the ones we've already talked about. If we can get ourselves focused this week and get these invitations out.
So if the group that comes on Saturday hasn't attended the first meeting, we're essentially starting over with a new group, and it would be difficult to have a breakout group to talk about solutions, like, voice to concern to them, what's most important, what they're most worried about.
But I think the good news is that your facilitators are really familiar with the community action list, so we can hear a concern or an impact and put it into one of those boxes real quick. Sure.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3, and then figure out with the committee after the fact, which one do you think best represents it? And then when you when you look at writing the grant, make the case that it fits wherever you want it to get funded.
Yeah, certainly. And as a reminder, we are gonna start out by talking about those climate impacts that people prioritize most highly in the first workshop. So hopefully people will hear that.
Somebody's gonna take this home and summarize it.
Great.
Cassie, can I just make a quick suggestion too? I think to the point that was just made about like, how are we gonna get people to move from impacts to solutions? I did think that I in a couple of meetings that I've been in recently, the person who's presenting gives a really, really high level overview of like, here is what it looks like to move from thinking about impacts to solutions. And I think that helping people, to just give them an example of like, here, one of the impacts that we heard a lot about was, I'm just going to throw something out there, was the threat of wildfire. And so what would a solution to that risk or to that threat look like? And here's an example, just so that you can kind of help people to start making those connections.
And this was definitely came up in Southport, and I think we actually heard wildfires a concern last week. Then people immediately connected to that and started expressing their needs. And it was like, gold was, next steps.
Perfect. That's great.
On topic of wildfires, I would encourage everybody to read the New York Times climate edition that came out on Sunday. Focused, the entire thing was almost on the wildfires in Canada. It was frightening, absolutely frightening.
There's a paywall. I'd love to see it.
You can gift it, you can email it.
Yeah,
I think that making connections to what's in the news, what people that are coming straight from the news is huge. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is make connections with each other, because those are what we're gonna draw on to keep this work going, to keep ourselves going.
Well, and on that note, the second great article in that magazine this Sunday was on the fact that in therapy right now, they've not ever recognized climate as a concern and or yeah. And the fact that in the last 7 or 8 years, all over the country, they're seeing people come in with this stress level. And it's not fixable. That's what they're saying. Typically in therapy, you work people towards solutions that have, a way to get there. And with climate, what makes it even more dire is that there is no solution. Right, there's no treatment. So you have to basically help people, and you have to listen to them, and you have to sort of let them know that we have to learn to live with this discomfort, and we have for our own selves, how we're going to work with that. But I think in the context of talking to people in these groups, there is no easy fix. There is no solution necessarily. We're moving towards something that we hope will make things better.
And the connection is like, there's nothing like being a good company, I mean, seriously, shit's going down.
The worst thing you can do is to not talk about it.
Yeah. Thanks all. This is really valuable input. Does anybody have additional thoughts for the breakout specifically before we move on to just, I want to make sure we go through the full agenda and our action items. We had talked about, I think we'll let people self-select. I'll put a note here, let people self-select into breakout groups.
Cassie, with say the 2 or
3 groups. Who's the main facilitator? Is it Shri and Jessica? Is it you and Shri? What does that process
yes.
look like?
So
Not to volunteer, but
No,
as an example,
absolutely.
like, what does that look like?
We'll have Shri and Jessica. Jessica, if we have a Zoom room that you'll be facilitating, then I think I will shift into a facilitator role. Cassie.
So I think what Colleen's asking for is the brief introduction that we're going to provide to explain who we are and what we're doing.
I was just thinking, like if we had like, you know, 2 groups, who I guess takes the lead in the 2 groups to say,
right.
this is the question that you've chosen, who would like to go first? And then go forth with that.
Yeah.
Or do we somehow wanna just choose 2 groups and say the 5 of us, no one's really a facilitator, but we are all jovial and cooperative and we just go around the circle? I mean,
My vision is to have Shri and Jessica facilitate, ask the questions, keep people on track. I would love for our committee to divide and join the groups and mostly listen, but also share. Listen and, you know, help as needed. But I think having the strong facilitation is key so we can keep those groups on track.
And hopefully with the big push to get the survey out, there will be a big push to get a Zoom link out, so there'll actually be people on Zoom for Jessica to facilitate, in which case Cassie would be the other facilitator saying to the group essentially, you know, let's hear what you're concerned about so we can identify the solutions, and let's just hear the solutions you've come up with, you know. Write it on the piece of paper in 2 groups, Jessica will be typing, and then we'll report back when we come back to the plenary to capture everything on a separate piece of paper. And then that will be transcribed into text, and then there'll be a process to narrow it down and say, did we get it right? Are these the top 2 to 6 priorities as you think you heard? And Southport's in the middle of that right now, but coming, not in the middle. They're nearing the end of that, but it is a process. There's post-processing for that, so.
Great.
Can I just make one suggestion, that the actual people that are coming have some issues around, what's the question again? What am I supposed to do again? And I really recommend that each group gets, the facilitator gets a piece of paper or a half board and says, this is what we're looking at. And it sounds ridiculous, but
the question.
yeah, question, but it works much better. And
I've
really
been
when
sitting here
people can
thinking
see
about
it.
that very thing, even though we know what we're talking about. I can look back at this and it's confusing as well. Just looking at the word adaptation. Oh no, what are they talking about? So an example, maybe? Giving people an example, how does this apply? This is what we're talking about, this kind of thing. And then, am I coming across here?
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm just,
Yeah.
I was thinking in Southport, they didn't seem confused. They were ready to say, this is what's important to me, this is what's important to me, and I'm like, got it.
Wow, that's.
And it was, let's see, there were 28 people there total who, you know, and we had, so 14 in each group. And I have pictures, they're gonna be in the paper soon. It was pretty clear who was gonna talk, because it was just like, I'm gonna talk. They just self-selected and it just went really
yeah,
smoothly.
one thing I liked was that you kept, in Southport, they had a pretty large projection screen with the question right up there as well.
Yeah, so that would work.
Yeah, but
Which I couldn't see.
oh, how funny.
But yeah, you can, you're right wrong. But we'll make sure, that's an excellent suggestion, we have something.
It was one of the slides.
Or a, projector.
Each group will have a whiteboard, and so we're gonna need 2 easels. Okay, we're gonna need another easel.
Big as that.
Okay.
Great, so that, and then there's one right in the hall as well, that entryway, so we could grab that. Yeah. So, okay, so in part of our setup, 2 easels with pictures. Okay. Got 2 easels.
I will supply Sharpies
Okay,
permanently.
fantastic.
Except for tonight.
All right, so we've had our breakout groups. We'll be coming back together as one large group to summarize and prioritize the actions identified by each breakout group. So the facilitators of the breakout groups will come up, report out to everybody. And Jessica, I know in Southport, you were taking notes on the screen to show that in real time as the report outs were happening. She was showing notes on the projector screen that everybody could see, just to say essentially what I'm doing here to show you all what we're capturing and synthesizing. I actually really liked that.
It's instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Well, it's hit send later too, for the next person who's taking it to the next level.
Yeah. So I would say either I or Jessica could do that.
I think that makes good sense.
Okay. So I'll just say Cassie to take notes. I'm gonna assume I won't be facilitating. Not sure, but I'll just take.
Well, if you're a breakout group facilitator, you'll be reporting back on your group, then I'll be
Yeah.
reporting back on my group. Jessica will report back on her group and be writing notes on the report back for all of us. So what we did in Southport was brought the sticky notes up and was, by the time, so I was group 3 reporting back and I was like, do you wanna hear everything? They're like, no. Okay, just the overlap, just the high points. And it was like amazing to see the prioritization process happen just from the beginning, group 1 to 2, group 3, to see how much overlap there was.
So are you asking people to write on stickies and then you can put them up and then
No,
you see?
I
and
hear
what are you
things-
using the stickies for?
She's writing.
I'm
because she's
on-
hearing.
This. These are stickies now.
Oh,
I know,
I'm
it's
probably
weird.
stickies,
I know,
sorry,
I
my
just
apologies.
changed
It's
over
fine.
to,
It's okay.
I know, the big papers.
Okay, so maybe Jessica and I could trade off when each person is speaking with whoever's typing and projecting.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason that I wound up being the overall note taker last time was that because I was facilitating the virtual group. And so I had notes, since we were all in different places, I had the virtual notes already going, and then we just captured everything else on that like same Google Doc.
And that was in the slides that, switch over to Google Doc. We had it set up in advance so that and that was part of the plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it when planning works.
Great, okay. So we'll do that, and I think perhaps a question here is who's gonna sort of lead the overall discussion here? I think having one person say, now we're gonna hear from this facilitator and this facilitator, and then ask people who are attending, is there anything we're missing from the report outs that you'd like to add? Did we hear you correctly? And basically lead that discussion with everybody in the room and on Zoom. So I think because Jessica and I will be taking notes, that perhaps Sri should have you do that. But we could also have one of our committee members lead that, if anybody would like to take that on.
I do it, but I can't be there. I'm working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what is the question again? Sorry.
It's okay, it's, when we get that together as one big group, have the report outs, then we will be asking everybody, did we hear you correctly? Did we miss anything? And then there will be some back and forth, I think.
Oh, as like the mediator between the
Yeah.
breakout group reporting out and either you or Jessica jotting notes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I can do that.
It is. So the way it happened in Southport was that each subgroup did that, and then we came back together, I think in the way you're talking about now, that is, okay, for real, here it is, you can see it, do we have it? And then transition to, and this is the next steps, and you'll be hearing from us via A, B, C, here's the time frame, and you know, look at that, next steps.
Yeah, so to be clear, I'm asking who wants to stand up and ask everybody?
Right here.
So asking,
That
is
was
there
fun,
anything that
wasn't it?
we're missing? Did we hear you correctly?
Yeah.
That stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does this look right to you?
Right, yeah.
Did we miss?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I also think that it can easily, potentially be easy enough to go have the breakout room, you know, Jessica or Cassie writing, and then they go, that looks about it. But I can be the person to say, do these notes look as though what you're conveying?
I like you doing it because of the local representation and us supporting you and your leadership,
Absolutely.
that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, so how this will look is everybody will be sitting together again, or wherever they're sitting, and we're talking to everybody at the same time, and you will, after we report out, Jessica and I will be taking notes, and then we'll have you ask these questions and then answer from the audience. And we'll just be furiously typing in the background. Perfect, okay.
While we're right here, can we agree to a dry run? I think that would be really smart.
Yes, so that's part of our, action items.
Okay.
I want to very quickly, I know we're running a few minutes behind, so I don't want to eat into Peter's time too much. But the last bit will be next steps. What are we doing with this information? And those are, we have to identify our top climate action priorities based on the workshops, the climate survey. We're gonna post these to the website. If you all recall, the town needs to pass a municipal resolution based on the priorities we identified. So we will be drafting that resolution to submit to the select board. And in order to submit that to the Community Resilience Partnership by Thanksgiving, you all will have to vote by November 21st, or I think in your November 21st meeting.
Okay, but we will have that report from you.
I think about a week.
I was gonna say at least a week,
Yeah, exactly.
8 days.
Yeah, okay. Great.
With that municipal resolution will be an individual, probably in this room, who's gonna have their name put into that municipal resolution. Who's going to be the person that GoPIF calls when a grant deliverable is due.
Me as the chair? We'll work on that. Okay,
So that's on the agenda.
yeah, absolutely. So who would like to lead this last section? I can lead this last section, that's fine if you want to sort of bookend.
Just let Colleen, yeah.
Colleen,
The next steps, yeah. I feel like I'm really weak on this process of like,
That's what we're gonna do, dry run.
okay.
We'll be fine, we'll be good.
And I think
we can help with content.
what's
and
happening, what's happening here is everyone's gonna get really clear what the next steps are.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna give voice to that, and so everybody's gonna be really clear what the next steps are.
Okay.
do it.
And Colleen.
Talk to you, okay?
All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, very quickly, we have action items that we need to prepare. So, there are a couple of things I'm not gonna go over. We need some more targeted outreach to you this week. So, we had proposed that Colleen and Evan and Terry continue to reach out to the youth at the high school.
I did talk to two folks at the high school. I need to just tell you this quickly. And, the kids that heard about it, or that were told about it in the classroom, sort of freaked out because they are full up with schedules. They've got work, they've got soccer, they've got everything. They just can't make it. And that was, and that was from, the kids that you want to be there.
Yeah.
Of course, it's all the kids that are, the busiest ones.
Yeah.
I think they had their haunted house rescheduled to Saturday, this Saturday.
Right, yeah,
I think.
I saw that.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, the word was, that you could just hold off until the first week in December. I said, oh, that's not gonna happen. So,
well, we
All
also can't wait for those who might not show up to as
Yeah.
harsh assessments, so.
okay, we'll do our best.
I don't know if there's any way for the questions, this is just a thought, if the questions that will be posted in the breakout groups, if those can be sent to those students who are maybe interested in having their.
We do have the survey.
Oh, that's true.
We do have the survey.
That's
So the
true.
survey would
And
be
is
good.
there,
I want to keep us a little on track and just go through real quick.
sorry.
So sorry. Lisa, you had volunteered to do some outreach to the school board.
Yeah.
Great. We had a senior dinner this week as well. I don't know if any folks would be able to maybe go to that dinner, tell folks, print out a flyer and take it with them.
what date is it?
Jan, you have the flyers that were printed. Did we get any printed from November here?
Well, this is what we got, and that's what I got these for. This is workshop number 2, and it says the same thing as workshop number 1.
It's a different location.
Yeah, but is it,
Oh, so.
And the
it's the
different
same, it's the same by the end of this workshop. Thank you, content.
Right.
It's the same content.
That's what you asked for.
Yeah, that's what we approved.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, just the date and the time, I think is the most important thing at this point,
Yeah, okay.
to get out there.
Can I add one piece? I think that a collective email that everybody agrees on with collectively understood and agreed upon language that everybody can just forward with image is something we'd like to help with for this outreach. So it's not all piecemeal, and then we can CC Ms. Cassie at climate@gmail and start building the database. So,
So say that again, what are you, you're gonna come up, you're gonna.
I can draft an email that's essentially gonna
I've got
have,
an email I can send around.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
you've got it all drafted.
Yeah, yeah, you all had a promo sort of email from me with all the flyers and things, and then we had our press release.
The press release, right?
Yep, yep, so I'll resend that. Okay. See, to resend.
All geared towards November 4th.
Not geared towards November 4th, but both things. I'll
So we
resend
can
that.
just edit to focus just on.
Yeah, to focus on the 4th. Okay, so we need to distribute our flyers, so I was gonna ask if Marty and Jan would be willing to redistribute those through town. Surveys, we got a request to make the surveys available at the town office. And perhaps bring to like
On
the senior
paper?
dinner, on paper, yeah. So I was wondering if anybody would be willing to take on maybe just designing surveys so it would look good on paper. I think we could request the town to print a few copies.
I can do that.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something I think we wanna get that in the next like day or two.
Or 2.
So the paper surveys, would those need to be also finalized by Wednesday? Or are we just saying electronic?
We are saying finalize by Wednesday and put at the town office,
The paper.
the paper. copies.
Okay.
So ideally, I'll finish it by tomorrow, send for someone to look at and say, yes, looks good, and someone's gonna print it on Wednesday.
Okay, wait a minute. Like, are we saying that the cutoff is Wednesday?
So we are
For
saying,
physical, because there's no point in going to all the work, if you're only gonna have it there for one day.
no, so I think we should continue both the electronic and the paper surveys until November 8th.
Oh, okay.
And not the first. Just to allow, because we may have some people who come to our workshop who have not taken that survey yet. And so we wanna give them the opportunity to do that for a few days.
So this cutoff is just my action item to get a paper version printed so you guys can use it in your outreach before.
So are we going to have paper copies here at the town, and the people fill them out and leave them to somebody, or where?
Is there directions on where they should be leaving them?
We would want them to leave them here and then somebody to pick them up.
So we need to coordinate, there's a box for them that's clearly labeled.
Or can the administrator here? So we can just
Put it in a
quickly
folder.
fill it out and then give it to her and then she keeps, I don't know, it's a kind of a rough situation, but.
I think if we just had a box with the poster on it and labeled, that people put back in there, I think you can ask the town to do it, I think that's not a good idea.
Like a wooden box, or could you think, a shoe box or something?
Yeah,
I don't know, like.
My dad used to do this for Christmas, as a high school teacher, you take a regular cardboard box, cover it in gift wrap and just cut a hole in the middle.
A cereal box.
Yeah.
I mean,
But where do we put it? There's no room on the counter. I hate to be, I don't wanna be a Debbie Downer, but where do we do it? So
Would it be helpful to schedule a quick follow-up call tomorrow to discuss our action items, because we are at 7:12 and I wanna make sure.
Yeah, okay.
so I'll move forward with my action item. You guys figure out the box.
Thank you.
Yeah, right, let's figure.
Okay, so we will identify somebody to take the lead on this. We'll call tomorrow. Okay. So no, okay. So you all have access to this, so please take a look as well. We can also coordinate a little bit over email, but we'll have a quick call just to make sure we're all on the same page for all our action items. Okay,
So you already have the PowerPoint, right? From,
The last one.
yeah,
the last one.
you don't have both?
I think we do, but I will resave it and get it started.
So I need to touch base with probability to figure out what slides are actually needed, what we're adding, correct?
Yes.
Because,
So,
Yeah.
sounds a lot like you're starting over and just pick the slides that are useful.
Yeah,
pick the slides that are existing, that are useful, and create new slides around that.
That's what I'm
yes.
thinking makes the most sense.
Right.
Aligns with the flow, we just meticulously outlined and more or less understand,
Okay.
rather than trying to make it fit into that format, which does not include a survey.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you all. Alrighty. Okay, thank you, Sri, thank you, Jessica, for joining us.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome to stick around or to go home. But yeah, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Soon.
See you very soon.
Who's going to take this, one of them, and summarize it?
Thank you.
You said you wanted to do it.
I got it. Yeah, this is the update. Thank you. Okay, so next in our agenda is a presentation from Peter Arnold, who is the head of our Repower Wiscasset working group. And he has asked to make a short presentation to us for consideration by the committee.
Just to orient you to the handout. Oh, I wanted to thank you so much, this committee, for, I've been doing this work for 30 years. And, you know, you're the apex of. Cool. So the handout, just to orient you to it, I'm going to refer to it as part of, we go through, but the first part, we had a meeting with Dennis on Friday. And that's what we talked about, basically, those things. The second item is the benefits package, community agreement example from the town of Barnstable. So in the presentation, I would like Wiscasset to say, yes, we want offshore wind connection. This is what Barnstable got out of it, pretty good. And then outside the boundary of Wiscasset is the rest of the world.
So that next section kind of talks about what the rest of the world is doing. And then this last one is just really, we said, money.
Oh, sorry, hang on one second. There. Give it a try.
Yay.
I might have to advance it for you.
Okay. So what Repower Wiscasset wants to do is use Wiscasset's family jewels. We have this amazing legacy infrastructure. This is the substation at Mason Station. Right, 345 megawatt unit. I think you'll have to advance it.
Yeah.
And then I've begun to think about these two amazing legacy places. Wiscasset really is an energy town. And the infrastructure is still here. So the South Campus, if Mason Station is the North Campus, the main Yankee area is the South Campus. Next. So that's the substation down at Mason, down at Main Yankee. That's 1,000 megawatt unit. When Main Yankee was running, that installation covered a whole lot of Maine, like 80% or something like that. It really was a huge amount of electricity that ran from the nuclear power station through that substation and out into Maine. So it really did, Wiscasset held an amazing place there. And all that infrastructure is still here. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is how to have Wiscasset take a leadership role in repowering these legacy things.
Are you saying, are those active now or not active?
Well, they're not dead. You know, CNP uses them, but they're not used to pick up any generation. Right? Anyway, and then we've got the transmission infrastructure. Right? We've got all those towns, all those towers, and the wires. So we've got the substations, we've got the wires, we've got a connection to New England that originates here. Right? So I tried to think about how to bring in what we're doing into the language that you're already using. So mitigation, I think of, if you took the town hall here as an example, right? If you added insulation, you'd use less oil, or the town would use less oil. Right? If you added heat pumps and cut the oil off, then you'd lower the CO2 load. If you put solar panels on the roof, then part of the electricity for the heat pumps would be made by the town hall itself. So that's kind of in the mitigation end of things. And the adaptation side, we talked about it earlier, right? Making a cooling station in the community center, right? So there would be a way for citizens to get cooling if they needed it. Might be a heating, who knows, right? But so that would be a way to think about that. And I spent a part of my career thinking about culverts and $25,000 to replace a culvert, $100,000 to replace the road. They're overtops, right? So you know, figuring out which culverts to do. So those are the two pieces. And what we're thinking about is big generation. You know, not solar on somebody's roof, but significant generation that could be put through those substations to really move that forward. Okay. So these are the goals that we hold. Persuade Wiscasset to adopt a clean energy policy. So how can the town become a shining light. We've got these jewels, we've got these legacy electrical jewels. How can Wiscasset really stand up and say, we want to be a beacon for clean energy, right? I think that Wiscasset can really play a significant role in the rest of the state by saying that. You know, we have amazing power here, and it's not being used currently. It's not being utilized, it's not being talked about. So thinking about, you've heard me suggest that the sign out there could read, Wiscasset, the prettiest clean energy village in Maine. You know, to bring that forward, what we've actually got in our hands. Go ahead, Cassie. So support those climate action goals by increasing clean electricity generation and feeding that into those substations. There are a lot of possibilities for clean energy generation that could work here in town. And let's figure those out and see if we can get them to go. Next. And I really think, again, that Wiscasset can stand out by being a climate aware place and developing a climate aware reputation. You know, what you all are talking about, how to do the mitigation part, how to do the adaptation part, and give a priority to those and get the money and get it moving. You know, that's a big piece of being climate aware. But I think we can enhance our reputation by using those electricity generation jewels, family jewels. Let's wear them instead of keeping them stuck in the drawer. Go ahead.
So Peter, so you're basically saying that we could put in solar panels, wind generation, and we've got the ability to use the existing infrastructure to get that energy out.
Exactly. You nailed it,
Wow.
just like that. And there's a number of others too, possibilities for clean generation.
And there's no revenue coming directly off of those legacy properties now, for town Wiscasset.
The town gets to do property taxes. Well, but there are no businesses associated with it anymore. We want to bring the businesses in and then tax with the businesses, right? Yeah.
No, I get it,
Right?
yeah.
And I think we can do great stuff. Go ahead, Cassie. So I just threw a couple graphs because I love graphs. So this is the CO2 in the atmosphere. And way up at the top right, there's a little blip. That was COVID. But we're back up again. And we're scheduled to climb a bit. Every ability that we can latch onto to make clean electricity here, we'll do a little bit to level that curve, right? Less CO2 going into the main grid, less CO2 being generated by the electricity being generated in Maine. Right now, 30% of our electricity is generated by natural gas turbines, and about 15% is by biomass generation. So 45% of our main electricity emits CO2. Right? We can change that. We can make a huge difference by repowering our legacy stuff. Go ahead. So I love this one. We humans, I think, tend to think in linear fashion. That's an exponential curve right there. Right? That was this September. Look at the jump there. Just amazing. I think it's a great graphic. Very scary, but it has to do with the limited, kind of my feeling, the limited time we have to make a difference here. Right? So being able to jump into this area of repowering, I think can allow Wiscasset to help Maine make a real difference. Go ahead. So this is billion-dollar disasters and what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years. All the gray lines on the bottom, it's all the years before. This is just recently. And it's it's a graphic demonstration of how much it's costing us to continue to put CO2 into the air, especially through
Up here too.
generation. Yeah. Good. So that's all graphs. So why should Wisconsin repower? Because we can help the environment, right? We can do that. We can increase revenue by having property tax on those businesses and on the transmission. And that will reduce taxes, right? The more money that comes in from businesses, the less has to go to property tax. And I was talking, as we were talking with Dennis, he helped me understand that some people will be motivated by helping the planet. And dismiss, oh, who cares about taxes? A lot of people would like more revenue for the town. So when you put those two together, the revenue for the town people and the people that are interested in climate issues, you've got pretty much the whole population, right? I think we can sell this.
I would switch your top and bottom on that personally, but yeah.
Well, it reflects my, you know,
I know,
I'm
mine
the
too,
environment guy.
but the reality is, I know, I agree with you, but if you're talking Wiscasset, their taxes are gonna be number one.
All right, we'll turn it around, right? We'll do that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. So, go ahead. This is, I've kind of settled on this tagline. I don't know if that's the best one, but how can Wiscasset say to the rest of the world that we're a clean energy village? You know, that we're gonna push into it, we're gonna repower. We really do hold this as really important. So help me think about that. How can Wiscasset message that? Right, that we really care, and we're gonna make money at it. I just like that, prettiest clean energy village in Maine. Maybe we can, I don't know whether Wiscasset owns the tagline, prettiest village in Maine. But maybe we could change the tagline.
Peter,
Yes,
my side note, and I know you've heard me say this, I personally think Wiscasset, I'm gonna lose my French. It really has its head. And yeah, part of the reason it does is because they have no clue about who they are, what they want to be, and where they want to go.
Right.
I think this would be absolutely brilliant if you could actually get the town of Wiscasset to figure out what the hell it's doing. And it doesn't know what it's doing, which is why this is so concerning to me, because it's like a slam dunk. It seems totally like a slam dunk, like why aren't we doing that?
so these,
Select person, but I think that that's I think it's a bigger thing, I think the town has to go through a branding strategy of sorts to figure out what's important and what they wanna do, it's gonna make this committee's job a lot easier, and it's gonna make what you wanna do seem like we're idiots if we don't do it, which we are. No, seriously.
yeah, so these are all policy things that I'm talking about here.
I'm gonna do.
We don't need money to do this.
We're at 7:29. It's okay to go a couple minutes over, just so,
But I ain't got much more.
well, yes. I know we got your presentation later, unexpected.
Go ahead, so that's a policy, right? The select board could say, yes, we're gonna stand up, we're gonna be a clean energy village. So that's it, adopt a clean energy policy. Go ahead. And pass on to the governor's energy office and the Department of Energy, that Wiscasset's open for clean energy business. Right? The businesses don't know what we have here, right? I think Wiscasset can become open for business. They can really say, yeah, we want you to come, you know, bring your proposals, bring your CEO, come to Wiscasset. We've got something to offer here. We really can do it. Go ahead. So these are the three policy plans. Or the first one was think about Wiscasset as a welcoming place. So this is the second one. Endorse the offshore wind research array legislation. So that's coming up, right? Cassandra knows more about it than a lot of people. And it's moving forward. So we can, go ahead. we can say, Wiscasset can say, yes, I know this is moving forward. There's probably going to be a research array, and we would like to be the connection point, right? It's the easiest way to recall. And the benefits package, the one that Barnstable got, is on there, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of stuff, right? And that's a negotiable thing. The developer that puts in the array would go through that negotiation process with Dennis, right? And this is, so we're back to civic leadership in the state, right? Civic leadership in clean energy is Wiscasset, the town where clean energy comes from, however it gets to it. Right? So another part. So this is our offer, right? The town owns a bunch of land right across from the main Yankee substation. And what we would like to do is do a report to the town that outlines the possibilities, some of the, or all of the possible generators that could be located there, and then make a proposal for designing a park so that there's a place for those clean energy generators to go. I think it's another kind of slam dunk to me. The town owns the land, solar can be a part of it, tidal power can be a part of it, offshore wind can be a part of it. Actually geothermal now with the new technologies could be a part of it. So there's lots of possibilities for moving this forward. Go ahead. Is there another one? Yeah. So, and that's the, why not? Wiscasset can become business friendly. Go ahead. So Wiscasset has the means, you know, we've got the family jewels. Let's use them. Go ahead. Wiscasset can make an incredible contribution. By repowering, we can lower the CO2 emissions from electrical generation in the state. I would love to be able to knock off those gas plants. You know, just take them down one by one, because we're doing the generation that Maine needs. We have the will. That's the question. And the last slide asks, will this committee endorse us? And then there's us. Next. Thank you. And there we are. That's it. That's my spiel.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Peter.
Anyway, that's the last line to, Maine Yankee is being upgraded by the NEC. So, yeah. Why I don't, as part of the dam project, we call it being redone from. Yeah, it's part of the project, it's a separate part of the project that that's why they're doing construction now on Bradford. And they're redoing that one.
So it's a new corridor down to the substation.
We're upgrading it so it could have more effort.
Thanks very much, Peter. I have a question, which is, what elements of clean energy policy would you want to see the town adopt? Would that be renewable energy targets by certain dates? Would that be a certain number of businesses? I think I agree with the overall thrust. I just don't understand the sort of specific, like what the policy would include.
So the 3 points. A policy of we're clean energy friendly. Now, you could never know that, right? Nobody could come to the town office and find that out. The second one is to be proactive about securing the connection from the offshore research array. There's two places where it could go. It could go to Yarmouth or it could go to Wiscasset. No one would ever know that Wiscasset might want it, right? No one's talking to the governor's energy office saying, yeah, we want it. We think it's good for business. We want that connection. So that would be the second policy.
When is that decision?
It's in the next couple of months.
I'm not plugged into it.
Right, so it's coming relatively soon. Those, you know, a lot has to do with the engineers. But what we're hearing is that if the town is friendly, it's a lot easier. Right, if they understand that the town is gonna barricade the roads and say, you know, no, it's less likely. But if Wiscasset says yes, it becomes much more likely. And it stimulates more federal money if there's a community welcomeness, right? It really does. The feds say, yeah, let's put some money in there. And then the third one, Cassandra, is accepting our offer to do the report, outlining the possibilities, and embedded in the report would be a proposal for moving the idea forward to the next step. Whatever it is. For the park, yeah. We do the study. I mean, not the study, the report. And embedded within that would be the proposal for the clean energy technology program.
So when you first came in the fall, wasn't there going to be a study presented back that was looking at wind, solar, and nuclear? Weren't you?
This is the study that we're talking about, the report.
You're leaving nuclear out of it.
No,
So I'm just wondering where.
I'm saying clean energy. So I'm agnostic as to how the power is generated, as long as it's clean, as long as it's not CO2 emitting. And there might be all kinds of reasons to do one and not the other, or the other not the, but to put them together in a report so that they can be looked at and evaluated.
By the select people in this castle.
Right.
But you're saying that the decision is going to be made in the next couple of months as to whether or not that contract's going to go to.
Well, just the offshore wind connection.
But that would be huge, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That would be huge.
yes.
Yeah.
There is Dennis was mentioning that there is a solar developer that has approached the town about the main key property and installing the array there.
Right, so when we were talking with Dennis, our suggestion was that we incorporate that as one of the possibilities, right? Not just jump on it because it's what comes up first.
Yeah.
But to think about it in relationship to the other possibilities, and how they could work together to form a business complex that is generation and other businesses that collect around generation. Right, so get some kind of a plan going that includes solar. It's one of the easiest ones to do. Right, but use that think about that as part of the package of clean energy generation.
So my concern still goes back to if the decision is being made on one aspect of that in the next 6 months, what you're talking about is a fair amount of work, and you have to convince the select people, and you have to convince potentially the town of Wiscasset. Do we have the time for that? And would it not be better to put the money into finding someone to lobby on behalf of Wiscasset with the people in Avesta who are making a decision between Wiscasset and Yarmouth?
Sure.
I don't know.
Oh, no, I
I'm just
agree.
saying.
I think the connection is just a cable, right? It doesn't need the clean technology part.
No, but you potentially need to lobby part of that to get
Yes.
somebody's ear to suggest that Wiscasset.
Oh, I completely agree. We can start tomorrow. I mean, Wiscasset can start tomorrow.
Right now, we're doing nothing.
Right.
So, a matter of get the ball rolling. We said, let's get this going. We'll start, we have we hire a town planner, we introduce people, maybe get but that is a priority, environmental, clean energy.
My experience in doing this kind of work is that as you start moving into it, doors open, this door opens, that door opens. You know, it just begins to fill itself in, and the project takes shape. But I completely agree with you, to have Wiscasset say, yes, we want to compete for that connection point, and then do whatever needs to be done. Right? I'll go to Augusta, I can lobby.
No, but I'm assuming you need us to support you to go to the select board to get
Right.
their,
Yep. That's it,
Hail Mary to be able to go to Augusta.
that's right, yes,
Is that what I'm hearing?
that's what we're asking for.
So, yeah, to sum up, it almost seems like to me there are kind of three different proposals here that might benefit from being treated a little separately. The shortest term seems to be the offshore wind array, and us recommending to the select board that Repower Wiscasset be allowed to potentially lobby on behalf of the town, the governor's energy office. There's doing the clean energy technology park proposal, and then there's the recommending the town adopt a clean energy policy.
Yes.
It's a little bit longer.
You got it. Good.
Um,
And
I'll
we
just
don't want,
speak.
we don't want money.
Yeah, and you don't want to make, which I'm sure is always helpful. I think I would feel most comfortable about the array. I had a few thoughts on the clean energy policy. I think a generic policy would not, like without goals or metrics, wouldn't necessarily result in a lot of changes, but if the recommendation would be for the town to set renewable energy goals and to commit to doing like zoning and permitting changes. And I think also taking into account the impacts of sea level rise on that peninsula and the road, which if you remember from the workshop last week, I showed a map of the main Yankee Peninsula. It's going to be impacted by sea level rise, so we should probably be thinking about that when we think about recommending changes to it, or development. I think the clean energy, I just personally felt like the clean energy policy could use some more detail before we recommend it. And I also feel the same way about the clean energy technology proposal, just like getting a few details about what we study and recommend.
And what the footprint is going to be, what it would look like, what will the noise be? I mean, people will be concerned about where they live and how they'll be impacted. Just like I'm a little concerned about the array only in that line cable up the river. Is it coming, where is the cable getting running? Because, so what about all the lobstering that have traps in the river, they usually fit? That could be, I'm just wondering about, like, there are a lot of people in this town who don't believe in climate change. So if you've got lobstering that might have your traps affected, you might have some really pissed off people. You have to like, I don't know if that's gonna be the quickest solution.
So, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of public education
Right.
would need to be done, and we'll take that on.
Okay.
There's an array of experts now that can support this. But we can bring them to town, we can do public meetings, we can do all that stuff. And Cassandra, I think the answer to your question about the clean energy technology part would be embedded in the report that we would do,
I
as
think,
well as a proposal.
yeah.
So it's just information gathering and
Right.
provision of information.
right, I think I'd love to see like a proposed outline or goals of the report. I don't really understand what this report is going to bring.
Sure.
That's
That's
valid.
valid.
That would really help.
Mhm.
Deliverables. Yeah, so we're at 7:45, folks. We've gone over a little bit.
Thank
Thank you very much. Sorry we're running a little bit late.
We can discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think discussing at the next meeting is really great, just to wrap up really quickly. I think we'll also hear from Leslie about the Pleasant Street extension.
Well, there's nothing to say right now because they had to cancel last minute, so it's rescheduled for next week.
Okay,
So,
great. Do you want to send me the information we can circulate in case anybody can attend?
sure, yeah, sure, I'll send an email out to folks if they want to attend it, absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm proposing we hold our next meeting on November 13th. It was scheduled for the 20th, that is Thanksgiving week. Also, we need a little more prep time for the municipal resolution, which we will have to finalize and approve at our next meeting. There's a lot of work that has to happen between the next workshop and our November 13th meeting, so just a heads up. I'll have some in-between workshop meetings. And then on November 21st, I would say if anybody could attend that select board meeting to lend support to our municipal resolution. We'll talk with Carrie, I'll talk with you about what you need and when and how that would be best presented to the select board. Okay. As always, if you have agenda items for the next meeting, please send them to me. And a great few days. I'll chat with some of you tomorrow. I'll send out an email with a Zoom link.
I will say, we are very interested in Peter's project, very interested. You need to get behind it and recommend it to the board. Find a way to make it happen. I know I've been giving a lot of thought to it already, so help make it happen, okay?
All right, well, you too. That's for adjourning. Thank you all.
Marty,